All right. Hey, what's up, FMBA Nation? This is Bill Brower, and we are actually coming to you from a remote podcast. I've been honored and privileged to be joined by Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill, who has been a staunch advocate for first responders across the country, especially in New Jersey. And we appreciate what she's been able to do for us. Congresswoman, thank you for joining me to talk about this SALT deduction. And I just wanted to point out for our first responders that are also military veterans that Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill is a proud military veteran, a former U.S. Navy pilot. Thank you for your service, first and foremost, in protecting our great country. And thank you for your service in advocating for the citizens of our great country, especially the first responders.
Well, thank you. And thanks so much. I know it's been an incredibly busy day for you. So I appreciate having me on to talk about this important issue.
Yes. So, Congresswoman, run us through what exactly SALT is. I know a lot of our members are familiar with the SALT deduction and with the Trump administration, what they had to do with that deduction in terms of numbers and what it means for us, both as first responders, but also our citizens. Give us a little bit of background on SALT and why it's so important for us to support the men and women in Congress that are looking to change this deduction.
That's a great question. We in New Jersey are very familiar with SALT, and to us, it doesn't just mean something on your table. It's actually the state and local tax deduction. And that's been part of our tax code from the beginning. So when we first started raising federal revenue, we had a carve out for the money you paid in state and local taxes, so you wouldn't get double taxed. And in the last administration, they removed the ability to deduct that. So in New Jersey, we pay for our fantastic first responders, our EMS system, which so much, most people don't realize our firehouses now run so much of our EMS. Our teachers, we have the best public school system in the nation. Our cops, our local municipal government, so much of that is paid for with state and local taxes. And it's really important. And it's really important because that deduction helps with the affordability of New Jersey. Too many middle-class families find it hard to afford to live in our great state, and we're working on that. And one of the ways we need to do that is to get rid of this cap on our ability to deduct that, so people aren't being double taxed here in New Jersey.
Yeah, I think what you brought up and pointed out is especially important for us as first responders to understand and realize that the people that we protect in the communities that we serve, a lot of the services that are being provided to them, both EMS in terms of medical services and medical emergencies, as well as police and fire, as you had pointed out, is funded by the state and local tax. And, not just talking about equipment, but manpower, staffing, and all those things that come with it have a huge effect on the services that are being provided to those citizens. So we fully support what your efforts are trying to accomplish. And I think, speaking as a middle class New Jersey resident myself, it would have a huge impact in our lives as families, and doing what we're capable or able to do as well.
Yeah, if you'll notice, I'm putting myself on and off mute because I just looked at the time and I just heard my kids come in the door. So I'm hoping they'll keep it quiet while we're on the podcast. But you're exactly right. What some people don't realize is over half the people in my district took advantage of the state and local tax deduction cap before 2017 when it was rescinded. So this is something that middle-class families rely on. And I've heard from those families. I've heard from people like yourself who rely on that money because I'm sure there's other places across the country, but certainly in New Jersey, we need more funding for our firehouses. People rely on that. I've talked to seniors who are on fixed income and said, I just got an unexpected $2,000 hit on my tax bill. That's a lot especially when you're on a fixed income and trying to balance the budget of your house. So people across the district, across the state are getting hit really hard by this. We're in fact one of the states worst hit by this. And I'll tell you, and every New Jerseyan knows this, and I apologize for all our national listeners because they might get tired of the local flavor here. But New Jersey is one of those states that pays more and gets less in federal taxes. So in other words, for every dollar we send to Washington, we get quite a bit less back here in New Jersey. And so to continue to hit New Jerseyans with all of this, these punishing taxes is just really unfair as well.
What kind of support are you seeing at the congressional level and at the state level as well?
Well, at the state level, as you can imagine, I haven't found anybody who doesn't support this.
Yeah.
The governor has been incredibly vocal. He's called the speaker a couple times on this one. I've called him and said, we're coming up for a big vote. You need to kind of shore up the leadership. He's done that. I've spoken to Speaker Pelosi. I've spoken to Steny Hoyer and anyone in the caucus who will listen. We have a caucus is a group of people that sort of vote together. So we have a SALT caucus in the House of Representatives of over 30 people. It's 30 people. It's bipartisan. And we've worked very hard to get rid of this. And we've actually been successful in the House of Representatives. We passed legislation to rescind the SALT cap several times through the House. We haven't gotten it through the Senate yet. So this is the opportunity, this reconciliation bill. And it's why, I wanted to talk to you about this and have your listeners hear about this, why this deduction is so important for supporting public servants and why I'm fighting so hard for it for not just New Jersey families, but for all the public servants that rely on state and local taxes for their salaries and their firehouses and their equipment, et cetera. So we are going into reconciliation and the Speaker of the House supports it. I've talked to Leader Schumer over in the Senate. He's from New York, so he has a state somewhat similar to ours and feels the same way about this and is fighting very hard to get rid of it. And I'll tell you, I was fighting for some legislation to get some money to provide PTSD service dogs for veterans, which oddly has a connection to you guys because I think I was at one of your picnics. When I heard about this and you were passing the bucket around to raise money to get service dogs for a veteran, and we had a Vietnam veteran come tell us how important it was to him. So I went back to Congress with that, started working on some legislation that a member of the House had been working on. And so I got with him. He was a Republican. I got all the Democrats on board. Well, that legislation was just signed into law. So that's in large part thanks to your organization. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And when I was at the signing ceremony with President Biden, I felt like it was my job as a good New Jersey Congresswoman to say, and Mr. President, we've got to get rid of the state and local tax deduction cap in this reconciliation bill. I'm working hard on your legislation and we really need that here in New Jersey. And he said, well, he didn't make the speaker, the leader, they're with me, the president, we're still getting him on board, but he'll sign it if we can get it passed through Congress. So that's what I'm working on now.
It's champions like you, Congresswoman, that, we are so grateful for in the first responder community, especially here in New Jersey. We applaud your efforts. What can we be doing as citizens, as voters, to help you in your efforts in getting this back for us?
Sorry, I muted myself again. I heard some kids in the background.
No problem.
Certainly,
I've got them here in the firehouse too. It's okay.
I'm not going to tell them you said that. But certainly, making sure the people you're voting for support getting rid of the state and local tax deduction cap. You're going to find a lot of people in New Jersey to do that. Mm-hmm. And then I think talking to leadership in the House, in the Senate, firefighters have a lot of sway. I'm trying to remember what Eddie Donnelly told me about everybody loves a firefighter. So there was some joke in there, but it's true. You guys have a lot of sway, tons of support. People sincerely appreciate what you do. And if you can explain, if people are against this, and I know you were there for me when I held like a SALT press conference and stuff, explain why this is so critical to our first responders, why it's so critical to our firehouses. I'm not sure everybody quite understands the connection,
Yeah.
But I'm not sure they quite understand also how it funds some of the critical things that we need here in New Jersey.
Yeah, especially, we're on the heels of the Hurricane Ida debacle and the tragedy and the devastation that hit New Jersey. And, It brought into context the discussion of staffing and how thinly staffed we are in the state of New Jersey for these types of natural disaster events. When stuff like that happens, it just crushes infrastructure, it crushes the resources. So this directly ties to our abilities to do our jobs, to maintain our levels, to maintain our equipment, to maintain our firehouses, and provide these critical services to the citizens of New Jersey. So, we again, I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate your efforts and applaud you for this undertaking. And we, as first responders here in New Jersey, are hopeful that we can do our part to get this done as well.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've been remiss in not thanking everyone who's listening. I know across the country, we've experienced some horrible natural disasters, and especially, with the wildfires, of course, the firefighters have been right there. But even here at home, my district was hit incredibly hard with Ida. And as a woman was swept away, and some people jumped in to save her, and then put their lives in danger. And it was actually a firefighter who tied himself on a rope to his truck and dove in to rescue two members of our community who would have probably perished without that help. So if we ever needed a reminder of the bravery and courage of our firefighters and what they do for our community, that certainly is it. So thank you. And thank you to all your brothers and sisters who worked so hard for all of us. It was really amazing.
Thank you. On behalf of everybody that I know in our first responders, it's our pleasure. That's what we signed up to do. So we take great pride in our profession. On a more personal note, I do want to let you know that I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. I will, but hold on. I will say the only team that I do not root against, when they're playing Notre Dame is Navy, and that is also because my father is a U.S. Navy veteran as well. So we've got very strong personal family ties to both Notre Dame and Navy. So,
well, my husband and his grandmother has long passed away. My husband and I are both Irish Catholic, and so his grandmother always rooted for Notre Dame. And they were playing Navy, and my husband, was at the Naval Academy, and he goes, "Well, Grandma, not this time, right?" And she's like, "I'm sorry, honey, I'm always for the Irish." So not everybody has always been so kind to Navy, but it's always a wonderful, wonderful game. I actually got to see that game in Dublin when they played over there one year. So it's really wonderful.
That's amazing. Well, listen, Congresswoman Sherrill, I appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule, your day. I know we've been trying to hammer this out now for a couple of weeks, and we finally got it done. Thank you so much for supporting us, for your efforts in getting this, the SALT bill repealed and reinstituting the state and local tax deduction here in the state of New Jersey. We really appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks so much for your time and everything you do. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
You as well.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.